Well, folks, we've got another whistleblower in the CIA, but this time it's not the kind of report you might expect from within the spy agency. Jim Rickards used to serve as an advisor for financial threat and asymmetric warfare. It's a fancy name for strategy, how to use government tactics to influence global change. Now, you might recognize his name. He's the author of 2 New York Times best-selling books, Currency Wars and The Death of Money. In a recent article, Rickards suggests that the Federal Reserve is covering up a massive debt crisis. In fact, he says the same computer model he developed for the CIA to predict attacks around the world, that system called Project Prophecy, tells him that the Federal Reserve is doing what they can to keep the public, quote, in the dark about a $100 trillion meltdown, a massive financial collapse. On his website, Rickards calls it an unavoidable catastrophe. During a recent radio interview, Rickards pointed to a recurring trend that he found in the international monetary system.
The international monetary system has collapsed 3 times in the past 100 years. It collapsed in 1914, again in 1939, and again in 1971. So these collapses happen every 30 or 40 years, and it's been a little over 40 years since the last one. Now, that doesn't mean it collapses tomorrow like clockwork. It just means that no one should be surprised if it does. And there are plenty of warning signs, official actions pointing very much in this direction.
Even though the dollar is trading against the euro at the highest point at any time in the last 10 years, Rickards still says there's room for concern, especially because comparing currency to the euro doesn't mean the same thing as it once did. Other signs of cheap oil and a global economic slowdown point towards a coming crisis that could challenge the average American's financial resolve. Historically, the Swiss franc has been one of the most stable currencies in the global markets, but just earlier this month, the Swiss central bank split apart from their currency ceiling with the euro, sending it for a sharp nosedive. The Swiss central bankers and financial analysts clearly sense that some kind of change is in the wind. But right up until the announcement, they kept their cards very close to the vest. Several top European officials say they were very insulted that they didn't even get so much as a heads up that such a dramatic change was coming. Now the euro is plummeting, the dollar isn't very far behind, and the global markets are full of world leaders who are nervously feeling each other out and looking for solid ground in a global economy based on unstable fiat currencies. One thing is for certain, they're harvesting precious metals found inside solid ground. So keep your eyes on China, India, Brazil, and Russia. They're all purchasing record amounts of gold.